All right, everybody, how's it going? This is Michael Pedone with SalesBuzz.com. We're going to get started here in a second. First things first, it's moving day here at the Pedone house. So I'm going to be in the back room here. Hopefully none of the noise of all the movers that are moving our stuff into storage will go ahead and interfere with anything here. But if you do see some of that activity in the background, or you're wondering why I'm not in my normal location, that is the reason why. All right, so with that being said, I want to get into, we're going to make this, I want to get right to the point. And I want to talk to you guys about hitting your quota. And there's 4 things that you can do consistently that's within your control to be able to hit your quota. Okay. And so how many of you, let me ask you this, use your chat box. How many of you have a monthly, is it a monthly quota or quarterly quota, or you don't have one? Let me know what it is, either monthly, quarterly, or you don't have one. I'm shocked that sometimes salespeople don't have one. That's like really strange to me. Okay. And so some of you have it yearly, right? So you must have a longer sales cycle if it's yearly, right? Monthlies are a little bit shorter. And a lot of times those quarterly ones can be a long to mid cycle, right? Okay, so here's the thing. When it comes to hitting quota, and I'm not talking about the types of quota where it's arbitrarily set and, like you're never going to hit it to hit your bonus and all that other stuff, right? Because there are, let's face it, there are some companies that set those crazy quotas out there to where, like, to get you to sign up, you'll make X amount, but if you hit all your targets, right? And they're just so unreachable that nobody's doing them. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about quotas and goals that are a little bit of a stretch, but they're obtainable. Are we good with that? Hopefully that's what, yeah, right. So they're obtainable, they're a stretch, but they're obtainable. Okay. And so Monty, I just saw your note there says you're an independent, you don't have one. You should set your own. That's really key. I mean, SalesBuzz is my second business that I started from scratch. But before I started my own companies, I've always been a straight commission sales rep. So even if the majority of the companies I worked for always had quotas, it was very high pressure you had to produce. But even when I went off on my own and started my first company, I would set goals for myself. And as I built the company, I kept moving the post, right, to get them goals bigger and bigger. And there would always be a little bit of a stretch until I would figure out how to get it, and just kept growing that way. And then eventually I got to a point where I was able to sell off the first company. And then I started this one, 12 years ago or so. And it's the same way. So if you're an independent, I would highly recommend that you set your own. All right. So with that being said, for everybody else, here's the thing, and yourself as well, if you're setting your own goals, right? There's 4 inside sales solutions to help you hit quota, and these are the ones that are in your control. And so the inside sales solution number 1 is called define your ICP, your ideal customer profile. How many of you have not heard that phrase before, an ICP? How many of you have not heard that or not sure what an ICP is, or an ideal customer profile? It is absolutely critical to sales. Now, and I'm going to share something with you. I was in sales for quite a while before somebody brought to me the concept of an ICP, an ideal customer profile. So if that happened to me, see, I think that should be taught on day 1 of sales, if I had to go back and do it all over again, right? But the thing is, as I remember back, I was well into my sales before I really understood the concept of an ICP. Are you guys with me? How many of you have not heard it? I haven't seen any responses, so that's why. So we're good. You guys understand? Okay, there you go. Yeah, so listen, it's okay to admit it. I didn't hear it first early on either. But here's the thing: an ICP, an ideal customer profile. I mean, if I can give you a simple analogy, if you want to hunt for, if you want to fish for largemouth bass, you have to be in a lake or a pond, right, that actually has those in there. Does that make sense? Like, if you're fishing in Salt Lake, Utah, you're not going to catch any largemouth bass because none can survive in here. Does this make sense? So if you look at it from that aspect, there literally are characteristics that your target audience has that will help you identify where to fish, the ones that give you the highest chance of percentage. One of the biggest challenges that salespeople have is to make sure they get laser focused on a target, okay? Because we don't want to miss out on any sale. So we approach it, I call it, we go wide and not deep, meaning we can help everybody from this side all the way to this side and everybody in between. And even though that technically can be true, if you're doing outbound prospecting, the ocean's too big in that sense. You want to get very narrow and focused and go, what are the characteristics of all of the best clients that have bought from us in the past? What do they have in common? You're profiling. My daughter actually just bought me a book called The Mind Hunter, which is based on the series of Netflix, right? That Mind Hunter series, and it's all about profiling. What's the same thing? We're hunting prospects, not serial killers. That's the only difference, right? So what you have to see, what are certain characteristics that make up the target audience you'll go after? So when you do your outbound prospecting, you have a much better chance of having success. Does that make sense so far? And the basics are very simple when it comes to your ICP. As a matter of fact, let me do this. I'll put this in the chat, and you can poke at this later. Let me get this in the chat. Here's and some of you, if you follow me, you might have seen this already, but there's a link that you can go to after the session. They'll give you a little more information about an ideal customer profile and how to build one. And let me give you an example. I have clients like 3M that I train that use our on-demand training program for outbound sales in 12 different languages all around the world. I have one of those clients, and they paid me handsomely for it. The majority of my clients, though, okay, they have anywhere from, say, 5 to 50 sales reps on staff in the US, English speaking, and do anywhere between $1 and $10 million a year in revenue and want to get to that next level. Like that's like a higher percentage. So if I know that I get contacted, or if I'm going to reach out to somebody, I will find, okay, I'll pick a certain industry that I know that buys from me a lot in the past, has a certain amount of employees, certain amount of sales reps, and then I know that I could reach out to them and start the process and have a much higher chance of getting a sale with them rather than just throwing a dart at the phone book, for example, and just trying to pick a name anywhere. Are you guys following me on this? Right? And yes, Dan, who asked that? David. I did. I put the link in there, right? The link in there. You should be able to get it. Hopefully you see that in the chat box. All right. So that's the first thing is, and again, these are things that are within our control. I mean, how many of you do your own prospecting? All right. So you guys don't see the link? All right. So hold on one second. Let me hit it to everybody. My bad. Thank you for pointing that out. There we go. It's to everybody now. You guys see it? All right, good. All right, so you're welcome. Thank you for letting me know that. All right, so here's the thing. How many of you do your own prospecting, right? Okay, so you can have too many leads and not know where to start. So if you're now when you do your own prospecting, are you building your list first and then you start your outreach, right? You have to know where to start. Know what are the top 2 or 3 titles of the people that are almost always involved in the decision-making process. I have a whole thing about how you can't assume somebody's a decision maker based on their title alone. However, I'm willing to bet if you made a list of the last 10 deals you or somebody in your company made, and you wrote down the titles of the decision maker for each one of them, you're probably going to start to see the same 2 or 3 titles pop up, right? And so that means, okay, if they have one of these 3 titles, I can start the process. What, how many employees do they have? What location do they have? What industry are they in? What's their annual revenue? Those are just the basics, but that'll be able to give you a huge jump on who your target audience is. So you want to find what are those unique characteristics that your best clients have. And if you get 3 or more of your best clients and you analyze them, you'll start to see that pattern. And then when you go to prospect, whether you're using something like uplead.com or Salesforce, or Salesforce Navigator is what I use for LinkedIn, right? The LinkedIn, if you're using that or whatever platform you're using to build that list, when you target that area, that is going to give you one of the best chances, because you're contacting people that are going to at least have a chance of having a problem that you can help them solve, whether they know it's a problem or not yet. But that's where you need to start. Are we good? Does that make sense for everybody? So that's step 1, is make sure you define your ICP, know who your ICP is, okay? The next thing is the inside sales solution number 2 for hitting your quota is your lead list. How many leads should should each outbound business development rep have? Have you ever thought about that? How many leads should you have? Let's do some math here. There are 261 working days in a year. Divide that by 12, and your average, you have an average of 21 working days per month. Now, the magic number of dials per day for me is 60 dials. More on that in a minute. If you do 60 dials, that also, by the way, 60 dials means if I call you and I get your voicemail, I leave a message, I shoot you an email and a text or whatever, and then you contact me back, you call me back, that will count as 2 dials. I called you, left a message, you call me back, that's 2 dials, right? So the average, the best number that I've had to always hit quota is I made sure I was doing at least 60 dials a day and or 3 hours of talk time. Again, I could also send you a link on that later. Or if you actually just do talk time plus SalesBuzz, you'll find that, but do that afterwards. And it'll explain why that's important. But if you're doing 60 dials a day, how many contact attempts per lead do you want you or your team to be making each month? So that's something else that you have to think of, right? A lot of times you'll see, first it was you need 3 attempts to get a hold of somebody, then it was 7, then it was 12, and then it was 18. I think somebody said 24 the other day. We can talk later about, what's the exact amount of, what's the best number of attempts that you should have, but whatever it is, whatever your cadence is, whatever you decide how many attempts you're going to have to go after somebody, you have to take this math. And so watch this, 261 working days divided by 12, 21 working days per month. So how many contacts attempt per lead? You have to figure that out. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. Plus we have to define what a contact attempt is. So a contact attempt can be a phone call, voicemail, email, LinkedIn message, and a text message. I've always had the best results personally when I follow the process of a first-time attempt where I do phone, I get voicemail, leave a voicemail, and then I send an email right after that voicemail. And I recently included text messaging as well right after that. So it looks like this: phone, voicemail, email, and then a quick text. And I'm getting very good results at that. But it all started, I'm getting good results because if you back up one step, I got a very targeted ICP list. Does that make sense? You guys with me on that? Okay, so now I usually don't include a LinkedIn message outreach as part of my initial outreach because the phone, voicemail, email, and text has just got, those options have gotten me better results. I see somebody asking about that. I don't know how many of you are decision makers where you work, but if you are, I mean, 99.9% of the LinkedIn messages we get are like, oh God, this is such a pain in the ass, right? Like it's just dumb. They're making the same mistakes in their LinkedIn messaging that they are on the phone and then email, and that's why they're trying to find something else. The real thing is to target your audience and have something valuable to pique their interest to get them to engage with you, okay? Now, with that being said, we're talking about, okay, so how many leads should we have? We have our ideal customer profile. How many leads should we have? Well, it's going to depend on how many attempts you want to make to each lead, right? So let me just show you this. One inside sales strategy solution that I like is this. This is very simple. Phone, day one, I get a lead, phone, voicemail, email, text right out of the gate. Day two, I'll do a phone. Day three, I'll send an email. If I don't hear back from them in 72 hours, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 touches, right? Phone, voicemail, email, text, phone, email. Let me do that again. Phone, voicemail, email, text, phone, email. There we go, right? Within a 72-hour period. In the past, when I got into inside sales, I would simply do a follow-up once every 30 days at that point, until they buy or die, or until I make the decision I'm no longer going to chase them and I'm going to replace them with somebody else. Like I'm going to archive them and put a new person in there. Does that make sense? So if you have a solid lead list that matches your ICP and you have 6 touches in 72 hours and your prospect hasn't responded, chances are your message is off, or which we can show you how to fix. Right? As a matter of fact, let me do that for you right now. I'll send you a link. Actually, that link, I'll find that link and I'll send it to you after the session. I'll make sure our email marketing person has it, right? Or the timing isn't right. So you have to think about this. If you know you have the right message, you have the right leads, and you reached out to them, if they haven't responded back, either the timing's not right, or they just don't see that it's a problem, and you just need to move on anyway. I'm not a big fan of contacting somebody 28 times in 30 days or 12 times in 30 days and kind of badgering them. I would rather, in that 72-hour period after I've done those 6 attempts, I would rather do one of two things, and sometimes I do both. One, I put them back into a marketing drip campaign that feeds them valuable information. It doesn't ask for anything in return. I'm just giving them valuable information. And sometimes I write them during the week, and sometimes I actually have a whole bunch that I pre-written as well, and I send them out. And then I also do another attempt every 30 days on top of it, until again I decide to deep six them if they don't get a response. Now, if you're getting at least a 10% or above response rate on your initial outreach, your message at the very least is adequate. So let me say that again. Let's say you reach out, you do the 6 attempts, and you get, let's say you do it to 100 people, and you got at least 10 to respond to you. That's at least adequate. Agreed? Are we okay with that? 1 out of 10 is not bad, okay? If it's below that, your messaging and or your ICP is off. That's the benchmark you want to use. I'll say it, yes, I'll say it again. If you're getting below a 10% response rate, when you use that combination, all right, phone, voicemail, email, text, and you try that process like over a 72-hour period, or even if you want to stretch the 72 hours out a little bit, that's fine too. But if you're getting, if you reach out to 100 people and you get less than 10 people to respond back to you, then your ICP or your messaging is off. If you're getting 10% or higher, you know that you're on point. So you're good there. Okay. So now old school outreach is to call them once a month after the initial blitz. Okay. Once a month, once you've done that, like I said, you're going to make a determination. Okay, I've been chasing this guy for 6 months. Every month I've been following up with nothing. Is he that whale that's worth chasing? Or you have to make that decision. You know what? My time would be better spent if I punted them and put somebody new in that I'm going to start the process with. Got it? All right. I'm also going to send you a link that has a recap of all this. That'll have the right links. Yeah, so the email marketing person, just let me know. So I'll have all the links. It's also going to have some playbooks in there for you to follow on your like week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 playbook. But let's get back to how many leads should you have. So 21 days times $60 per day is what? That's 100. That's actually, let me back that up. It's 1,260 attempts. Okay, follow me here. 21 days of business in a month. If you're going to average $60 per day, and again, a dial per day is a dial. Email, text, whatever, that all counts, right? That's 1,260 attempts for that month, divided by 6 equals 200 leads in the bucket. After 1 month of this type of output, if you do something like that, your pipeline is going to grow. And again, I'm going to send you a link that'll have all the math and it'll break down the explanation of it. All right. So again, 21 days times $60 a day equals 1,260 attempts divided by 6. Why is it divided by 6? Because you're going to do 6 attempts per lead. So when you do this math, it means you need an average of 210 leads in your bucket. Cool? For the month, yes. And then again, like I said, you can either keep replenishing 210 a month. You have to understand, out of that 210, if you have at least a 10%, you're going to get at least 21 responses. And whether it's a response, it's one of two things. It's either no or yes. So it's either no, not right now, or no forever, right? So you handle it that way. Or it's a yes, and it's still taken out of your lead list because now it's in your opportunity pipeline, which is different than your prospecting list, right? So you're going to have natural attrition as you're going through that. Now, that's 210. Some people are going to leave. Some people are going to tell you, don't ever call me again. Some people are saying, yeah, I'm interested, but next quarter, whatever, right? You're going to have those kind of things. So you're always, every week, you want whatever you've lost, whether you've closed them or not, closed one, closed, lost them. Every week, you want to replenish what you've lost, or to replace that stuff. And so that's why it's really important to build your lead list first, get that solid 210. And then at the end of every week, all right, so if you start your process and you've gotten positive or negative responses, but you've subtracted from that 210 after 5 days, it's always great to come in and for a few minutes before on that fifth day or whatever to do a little research and go, okay, I have 15 prospects that are out of the system now. Some bought, some told me to F off, whatever, right? And so now I have to replace those 15 and put them back in. So now you do all the initial research up front, and now it's just maintenance going forward. You see how that works? Cool. All right. And again, you can control this stuff. You can control the number of attempts you're going to be doing and building your pipeline and creating your pattern and your systems to make sure you're getting through that lead list. No, you don't have to do $60 a day. I've always found that to be the best, but again, the link I'm going to send you is going to have a breakdown of all this. It'll have the numbers in there. You can adjust it. Okay, listen, I'm going to do 3 attempts and I'm only going to do $40 a day, right? If that works for you, that's fine. And then you'll be able to adjust it from that standpoint. Okay, good question. Inside sales solution number 3. Okay, we're going to go back just a little bit. Again, it's the number of dials per day. I've always found that it's much better to do those $60 a day and or 3 hours of talk time. I have found that $100 a day or more is not effective, and it's always been a red flag for me, unless you're using some type of auto power dialer, right? Then that's kind of, the numbers are skewed there. But I'm talking 100, because a lot of times, especially the where I come from early on in sales, it was, hey, you got to do $100 a day, $200 a day, $300 a day. And you're just picking up the phone, you're pounding, smiling and dialing. And my theory on that is like, if you're doing that, you're not speaking to anybody. You're not getting any meaningful conversations. Does that make sense? If you're doing $100 a day without an auto dialer, that's a red flag, because it means you're not piquing interest, or you don't know what to say once you do pique their interest to get them engaged in a conversation. What I have found is $60 a day and or 3 hours of talk time is what's consistently gotten me excellent results ever since I was mentored and taught that. And that was already after I was about 5-6 years into sales, and I was already proven myself to be a strong closer. I was a very strong closer, hated prospecting. And so this person brought me in, taught me how to do the ICP like I'm sharing with you, but then he also taught me the output level that needs to be done. And so when he shared was $60 a day and or 3 hours of talk time, because here's the thing, there's going to be some days you're going to make 20 dials, but you just have the Midas touch and you're getting a hold of people and you're getting deep into the conversation, and you're doing presentations, you're doing full qualifies, etc. Maybe even set up the demo. And before you know it, the end of the day is done, but you have 3.5 hours of talk time, but you only did 20 dials. There's going to be other days you're just going to be dialing at your best, dialing, can't get a hold of anybody, but you did 60 dials and only have an hour of talk time. Once again, that's okay, because if you're consistent in that area on those two metrics, $60 and or 3 hours of talk time, it's all going to even out. Now, if you only did 25 dials in an hour and a half of talk time or an hour of talk time, what did you do with the other 7 hours of the day? That's where the problem is. That's where most salespeople are sitting. They're sitting in that circle, and it's because they have call reluctance, because they're getting beat up and they're demotivated because they're making these outbound calls and they're not working, and the wins that they're getting are not enough to sustain them, to lift them over the failures that they're getting, right? And the problem with that is the ICP, that's for starters. Then you also have to know what to say to pique their interest, to get them engaged. And again, I'm going to send you a link after this. It's going to have all this, and I'll have a link for you to be able to go ahead and learn how to do that. But then once you have that, you have your ICP, you know what to say, you have the number of leads in your database sitting there already, right? You did your research and you built your lead list up. You're not hunting and pecking every day for, who to call. You build the lead list up, and then you just maintain it every week to replenish it, what's come out of it. And now you have to get your activity up. Skill plus output equals results. I'll say it again. Skill plus output equals results. All right. So now, and again, it's something you control. If you manage your day correctly, you build your list according to your ICP, and then you get your cadence going, you start your process and your discipline to get those numbers up. These are all the things that you can control. You just do those 3 in a 21-day work month period, and your pipeline for the next month is going to be much better. It just has to be. Okay. Now, the 4th thing is this. You guys aren't going to like it. You ready? Record your calls. Record your sales calls. Iron sharpens iron, and I'll never forget. I was being taught. I was at a new company, straight commission. There was about 80 sales reps there. If you ever seen the movie Boiler Room, it was very similar to that. We weren't selling stocks, but everything else was pretty much the same in that type of environment. And again, I was hired with about like a group of 10 or 15 people. I was the only one that was still there a week later. And the thing is this, I was proving myself to be pretty good, but I wanted to get better. And so I would come in and I would role play with their top guy in the morning. I'd work early, get there. I would role play. And then we tried that for a couple of days. And I came back to him. I said, yeah, what you said is not working. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I said what you told me to say. It's not working. He goes, you said what I told you to say. I go, yeah. He goes, role play with me again. I go, I said exactly what you said. He goes, really? We have a recording of it. He puts the recording up, he plays it back, and I go, see, that's exactly what you said. He goes, no. One, you change these two words and listen to your inflection. Your inflection, whatever that word is, right? It was off a little bit, and it totally changed the whole flow of the call at that point. And the light bulb went on. I was like, oh. So then I role play, then I understood. And I understand that those words, the exact wording was important, the exact timing and the reason to say what that particular statement that he was telling me to say. And the question to ask was for a specific reason at that point in time, and how to do it with the curiosity in my tone, right? And next thing you know, voila, started to work. And none of that would have happened if my call wasn't recorded. So then I started asking for my calls to be recorded all the time. And then I would just pester. I kept taking them to the point where I was the one training other people now because it was hitting it. And it all started because record your calls. And you might not like it. Salespeople, we tend to go ahead and there's a lot of I think a lot of industries. I'm going to share a quick story before we run out of time here. The other day, my wife and I were at this bar, Olivia, in Tampa. And we were talking to the bartender. The bartender was fabulous. And we said, hey, we always thought there should be you know how that there's that tattoo ink master, right? We like to watch that reality shows. We always thought there should be one for bartenders. It'd be really cool to see all the different kind of drinks they can make. And he goes, yeah, the bartenders, they have too big of an ego to do that most of the time. And I started thinking about that. I'm like, well, so do tattoo artists, so do guitarists. Guess what? So do salespeople. Am I right? How many salespeople do you know that don't have confidence in themselves that are at the top of their game? I'm gonna say zero. The majority of salespeople, even the ones that aren't, the problem is even a lot of the salespeople who are sucking, they still think that they're great and it's not them, right? And so where they fall down and hurt themselves is they're not willing to open themselves up to vulnerability and go, hey, I'm not as strong as I should be in this area. The good news is this: if you attack what's weak and make it stronger, if you just keep doing that for every skill set that you have, you're going to be the best that you can be. And that's all that anybody could ask for. So when you record your calls and you have your manager or somebody listen back to it, and you break each step of what you said down and you analyze it, you get better and better and better. And this is why iron sharpens iron. Cool? And if you do these four things, and if you attack them vigorously, and you do these four things, you're going to become much better, and you're going to start making a whole lot more money. And that's really what this is all about. If you're in sales, you should be in sales for one reason: to make as much money as you can. That's the only reason to be in sales, right? Sometimes in this day and age, it's not popular. Now, with that being said, the only way you're going to make a ton of money in sales is by helping people solve problems. And so that's the number one thing. Every time I pick up the phone, if I ever started to get any little anxiety or call reluctance, right, I just go, let me just see if I can help this person. And if you approach it from that mindset, right? If I call you, you're in my ICP list. I see you're a sales director of a company that's got 5 to 10 sales reps, and I pick up the phone. I go, hey, John, it's Michael at SalesBuzz.com. Listen, the reason for my call, I specialize in helping outbound sales teams overcome call reluctance so they can increase their chances of making quota. And if I caught you at a good time, I'd like to ask you a few questions just to see if what we have to offer might be of some help to you. Would that be okay? I get very few no's in that scenario. That is a cold call opening value statement. guess what? I'm using a formula that you could learn for free. Again, I'll put the link in there. You can take the class for free. The one that I charge for, I'll make sure you guys take it for free. It'll show you how to build an opening value statement like I just did, but for you and your target audience. And then when you take the other 4 things that we just talked about and you're armed with an opening value statement that's strong, you're going to start to get a lot more. Yeah, I got a second. Now, the challenge is you better know what to say next, because that window of opportunity can come crashing down on your fingers. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, guys, listen, I will go ahead. Any questions before I let you go? Is there a limited amount of time of access to the class? I'm not really sure about that, Kathy. That's something the training coordinator would have to look at. I think it's at least 7 days to the free session. But if you need something more than that, just let us know, okay? And again, before I let you go, here is, I'm gonna put one more time the link here. That'll give you a great recap on yeah, let me do that. And here, and while we're doing it, I'm just gonna give you the link to the free class as well. Just hold on a second. Bear with me for a moment. Let's see what we got here. All right. Copy link address. Yep. And let's just knock this out now for you guys. All right. All right. One question before we have to go, right? Oh, yes. So Kathy, yeah. So you mean you sign up and pay for the actual course? How long can? Yeah, it's a year. So the courses are for a year. You have unlimited access for a year. And if you just want to renew, you can renew after that. Yeah, absolutely. All right. The other link is the link to the free trial. If you want that, it'll show you how to go ahead and build your own opening value statement. Somebody was asking to find leads. So Danielle and somebody else was asking. So I have in the past, I have used this. I don't get a kickback. I don't have an affiliate link or anything of that nature. I just put in there. It's called upleads.com. It's like a Zoom info and things of that nature. Just probably a little less expensive, and it seems to be very good as well, right? So there's lots of that. I also, guess what, guys? This type of webinar is one of the best ways to generate leads. I've built 2 companies off of free webinars. So my first company that I started back in 2002, and then I sold it for 7 figures in 2007. It was a marketing company, a search engine optimization company. It was based on, didn't have a big budget. So I started webinars and things of that nature, and I would post them out there, and sometimes I would pay for advertisement in publications, online publications that had my target audience, get the traffic, do the webinars, build my email list, and then I would nurture them through the email list, and then I would go ahead and analyze those people that signed up for them, the ones that match my ICP, I put in a separate list, and I would do my outbound prospecting, right? And then I did the same thing with SalesBuzz when I decided to start SalesBuzz back in around 2008, 2009. Technically, we didn't get really rolling until 2010. But yeah, so that's one of the other great ways too. Once a month, your company should be doing webinars, emailing to your dead lead database, the ones that haven't raised their hands in a while, even the ones that have. And notice, you want to give, not take. You don't want your webinar to be a 30-minute commercial. Okay, you want to give specifics that will really help them, whether they buy or not. All right. And then if you just keep doing this, eventually you're going to find some people within there where the timing is right, they're the right ICP, and they have the problems that you can help them solve, and they're going to raise their hand. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you do, tell your friends about it on LinkedIn and whatnot. And we'll see you next time. I'm sure we're going to be doing another one of these next month. I'll just be in different digs while the new we are moving. Thank you. Yeah, we're moving to Dunedin. We've been in Trinity, Florida for a while, and now we're moving to the water, just waiting for the new place to be finished built. All right. Yep. So hopefully next time you see me, I might be in the new place. We'll see. All right, guys. Take care. You're welcome.